is the fifth installment. Technically takes place before Fury Road, so it's technically the fourth in the timeline. Actually, I might have messed that up too.
Yeah, I think we should stop talking. You know what? We're not going to review this movie. Actually, we're done. Thank you for coming.
Good night, everybody. Hello, and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we are reviewing Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Mad Max story? It's a Mad Max story. Where's Mad Max Saga? Now I don't know. What is it, Nick? It's a saga? What's the difference? You tell me that. Riddle me that.
Well, it's part of the Mad Max Saga, which began in 1972, I believe. Nope, 1979. Almost messed that up. 1979. So it's
I guess a saga.
It's the fifth film in the saga.
A saga is like a collection of stories, I suppose. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Just like
Touché.
Fast and Furious is now a saga.
I just got done watching this movie. This is a bit of a later review for us, even though we're getting this out at a bit of an earlier time, which is great. But Nick, something that dawned on me while I was watching this movie, as I was diving into the sands of this movie, as it were, I realized 2024 is the year of epic desert movies.
Oh, man. I mean, I watched Dune 2 Part 2 again a couple days ago, and then I went right into this.
Mm-hmm.
What an
epic, that's the thing,
year.
right? So Dune 2, right? Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. You got Borderlands coming out later this year. Friggin' Madam Web was... Oh, no, sorry. That wasn't a desert. The theater was deserted. It's different.
Boo! I'm so mad you just made that joke. I'm so mad.
But anyway, the point stands. The point
God.
stands. This is the year of epic desert movies. I've never wanted to hang out in a desert. Now that's all I want to do is start like a religious cult or just like start a biker gang in a desert. Maybe have like a tricycle chariot. That sounds pretty cool.
Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for.
We are inching toward that sort of apocalypse, aren't we?
Yeah. It gets more likely every day. However, if the trade-off is a freaking awesome chariot of was it three motorcycles? Three bikes?
Three bikes. Yeah,
it's just like an amazing. What an amazing mode of transportation to have in the apocalyptic.
Glorious.
Glorious. Absolutely. That was one of my. That was really awesome. Gosh, George Miller, man, George Miller.
Oh my goodness, right? The dude is 79 years old.
Yeah.
And managed to pull this off. Freaking unbelievable. I was so surprised when I found out that he was still attached to this project. I could not believe it. That he's still at the helm of this series. Like so cool. Hasn't lost a beat.
No, I mean, it's his story. It's like, he's been telling these stories since he was like, I think 34 years old. And fun fact, he was a emergency room surgeon.
Really?
And used the money that he made to help fund the first Mad Max movie back in the day with him and his co-writer Byron Kennedy.
No way.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Hot damn.
So
that is amazing. What a good way to spend your money.
It wasn't until he was 34 years old. So for all you out there, never too late. Don't give up.
34th birthday's coming up.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Where's your Mad Max Saga, Joe?
It's do or die coming up. Ooh. We'll see.
Oh, man.
We'll see, Nick. Stay tuned. So, it is about that time. I say this reluctantly, as it is a movie review. Yeah, it's amazing how we do this every time, and I feel like I always got to remind you. I shouldn't have said anything because it's my turn.
Said anything.
I shouldn't have said shit.
I totally forgot. Joe, it is your turn. Stop stalling.
My turn for what?
For those of you who don't know, every time we review a movie, we take turns giving a 15-second summary. Joe has the honor of giving us a 15-second summary of Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. He just got out of the theater, so this should be pretty good for Joe.
Let's go.
I'm pausing just to make Joe a little nervous and forget everything he wants to say. Trying to screw Joe up. So anyway,
trying to ice the kicker? You icing the kicker here?
Yes, I am icing the kicker, in fact. All right, Joe, you have 15 seconds to summarize Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. In 3, 2, 1, go.
As a young girl, Furiosa is in the green place. She's abducted by a biker gang. Her mom tries to rescue her, but she's brutally murdered. The biker gang takes her, but then she's taken by Immortan Joe, and she gets caught in between a war between the two warlords.
Dude, you took your time there. I mean, So
I had to say one more thing. She gets her revenge on the biker guy. Like that's it. That's literally it.
Listen. You took your happy ass time. Okay, this movie is broken down into 5 chapters, and you took 8 of your 15 seconds on the first chapter, which is the shortest part of the film.
Realistically, what I should have done was 3 seconds per chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't think about that until afterwards. So.
C'est la vie. I didn't even bother mention Praetor Jack.
Yeah. No love interest, which I thought was a pretty big, big point of the film.
I don't think it was that important, to be honest with you.
I liked it.
It was that important. I mean, I
enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty important. Taught her the ropes. Anyway, your grade is a C-.
I'll take it. It's okay. C- is fine. It's better than an F, which I will remind you was your previous grade from one of your favorite movies.
Yeah, that was not great.
Yes, I want you to linger in that. I want that to grow out of you like a tree of revenge, just perennially growing.
That will haunt me for the rest of my days.
That was gross.
It's a fact.
It's very gross.
It's pretty bad. So, C- for you, Joe. But real quick, I did want to mention, because I did touch on it a second ago, that this movie, which I enjoyed, was broken into 5 chapters. I thought that was really cool. Wasn't expecting that. Those 5 chapters, I believe, were called Pole of Inaccessibility, Lessons from the Wasteland, The Stowaway, Homeward, and Beyond Vengeance, which is really cool. I don't know. I liked the way that George Miller kind of broke up the storytelling there with giving us like those 5 sections. I thought that was cool. I don't know creatively why you would, but
I would like to also comment on that. But however, before we get too far away from that first chapter, I just want to throw in a quick anecdote here. I actually missed the first title card of this movie because I sat in a theater with like 3 other people, and we just sat there in darkness, and there was just nothing. There was no commercials. There were no previews. There was just nothing. We sat there for about 12 minutes, and finally I was just like, well, I'm going to go talk to someone. And I go to do that, and I talked to someone at concessions. I'm like, hey, there's no movie playing in the theater. And she's like, oh yeah, let me get on that. And she gets on a phone, and she's like, hey, Jack. Yeah, Theater 7. Yep. It's time. Okay, bye. And I'm like, okay. And I walk back into the theater, and I've missed the first minute. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? They didn't even do previews? They just shot right into the movie? The hell? I was so mad.
So the guy that gets up to tell them that they need to put the movie on misses the first 35
I got punished.
seconds.
I got punished.
That's hilarious. That's really funny, actually.
That's why I messed up my summary, Nick. It's because I didn't see the first minute of the movie.
Yeah, that's not why I messed up.
That makes sense if you don't think about it.
That makes no sense. We do have to call out the theater though. What was it? An AMC? Was it a Regal? Was it?
It was not. It's what is the Cobb? I want to say it's not a big franchise. I don't think.
Oh well.
It was that theater that you got a free movie ticket to. Oh. Remember the Cobb in downtown Orlando?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Cobb Plaza Cinema Cafe. Yeah, it's not a big franchise film theater.
Interesting. That's actually really that's kind of cool that it's down in downtown where it's located, and it's just like a normal. It's like privately owned, I guess. That's cool.
I guess. I mean, it'd be even cooler if someone was doing their job. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, Joe missed the first title card, so he's gonna be upset about this for a while. All right.
Do your job, Cinema Cafe. Come on.
What you got? What's on your mind?
So to get back into what you were saying with George Miller, I agree. I do enjoy the broken upness of this film. There just like all real quick, just word vomit of like initial impressions. Super cool that we got to see the green place. It was quite abundant. And honestly, like abundance. Seeing it actually kind of made me a little sad, and I think it's really interesting that we still don't know why it becomes that swampland yet. Maybe it's something that's in the works. I don't know. But that's interesting. Chris Hemsworth is Thor-ish, but in a very different, in a very subtly different way. That I really appreciated, and honestly, I think he has way more talking lines than Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie, and probably
1000%.
should be considered the star. I just saying, even though he's not the main character, I mean, he is a main character, right? But not
he has way more speaking
character.
lines. Anya Taylor-Joy has, I think, 30 lines, and her first line isn't even until chapter 3.
Is that for real? It's not till chapter 3?
Yeah, chapter 3 is her first line. So, because the first 2 chapters are like her when she's younger, and like her story at the beginning of her life. So we don't see Anya Taylor until the 3rd chapter, and which, you know, from a storytelling perspective, I love this. I knew that we were going to get kind of the origin story of Furiosa here. Obviously, the movie's called Furiosa, but I was not expecting to get that much younger, like, girl Furiosa. Like, I don't know the timing of it. I don't know how much time, actually screen time it was, like maybe like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. Whatever it was more than I was expecting from like when she was a kid. You know, I was not expecting to see Anya Taylor that late. Not that it was that late, right? Because she was on screen for most of it, but it felt much later than I was expecting. But I loved that.
It was close to half the film.
It was really cool.
Was the child actress whose name is escaping me right now. But yeah, it was. I agree with you. I was very surprised by it, but she was really good. Alila Brown is her name. Cool. She was fantastic. Although I did learn something about her. So I thought it was wild that they found a young actress that looked like Anya Taylor-Joy, because she has such distinct features. You know, like she's not the sort of actress that you can really mix up with anybody. And it was like, wow, that's so crazy. They found someone who looks like her. That's wild. And she looks so much like her. No. No, she actually doesn't. The actress, you know, it's her doing all the stuff, but they used AI imagery to like touch up her face to make her look more like Joy.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I didn't realize that was something that we were doing these days. So,
well,
there you go. Movie
here
magic.
There we are. That's cool though. But I love the fact that we got so much backstory from when she was growing up, and it really like George Miller just does this great job with storytelling and making us see and believe like how resourceful Furiosa is. Like all of those scenes with Kid Furiosa, if you will,
I like that,
were really, really cool. And we just got a lot of detail on why like she was able to survive after being kidnapped, basically. And it's because she was already resourceful and she was trained by the, you know, women warriors, and was able to like, you know, figured out how to stay alive. And one of those ways was essentially acting like one of the boys once she got to the Citadel, cutting her hair and not, you know, basically not talking. Awesome storytelling there by George Miller. And then, super surprised again that we didn't get Anya Taylor-Joy until the 3rd act, basically. And her first lines are badass. They're so good because like she's on screen. We see her for, she's probably on screen for like 20 minutes before she actually even says her first lines. Maybe longer, because that scene where the raiders are hijacking the war rig, that scene is like 15 minutes long. That's the scene where she speaks her first lines, but there was like some scenes before that where she was on screen. So it might be like 20 plus minutes before her actual first line when she shows up, which is crazy. And then she only has like 30 lines in the whole movie. But that scene also took like 78 days to film.
Wow.
That war rig scene where the raiders at the beginning or in Act 3 when Anya Taylor-Joy is finally on screen, that 15-minute scene took 78 days to film.
Dude, I believe it. There's a lot of complex shots in that.
78 days, and then 200 stunt people. Yeah, 15-minute action sequence, which apparently is like one of the biggest ever.
I know you can see it too. You know what's funny about that in particular? Like that scene sticks out for like a lot of reasons. One, because of how long it is.
Yeah.
But the scene itself, it felt to me, it was like, it reminded me a little bit of Fast and the Furious 1. Where they're trying to steal from the semi, right?
Oh, this is amazing.
It reminded me of that scene, and I was like, you know what? This is what they wanted that scene to be like in Fast and Furious 1.
This is what Fast and Furious
This is what they wanted it to be like.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. And like 20 some odd years later, George Miller did it the right way.
The right way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, but that scene was so great, and I was reading too that Anya Taylor-Joy and George Miller would have conversations about that scene, and he was explaining to her why the scene had to be this long, and his answer was because the audience like needs to understand how resourceful Furiosa is, and how smart and all that she is, and like that scene definitely does the trick, like. He sets us up with Kid Furiosa's, introduction in the first part of the film, and then that war rig scene with Furiosa, brings home how smart and resourceful she is with just everything about the war rig, and she obviously helped build the war rig too, so she knew a lot of things about it. So, fantastic, unbelievable. Like 78 days for one scene. Imagine, that's insane.
Yeah, I wonder what the budget for that one scene was.
I don't have that answer, but that's a great question.
Honestly, that's got to make some producer sweat out there. He's like, I don't care how much money this movie makes. I don't want to think about how much money that scene costs.
Yeah,
like I just don't want to think about it.
That's wild.
That is crazy. 78 days, man. Oof.
And
damn,
what's great about
they're out of. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say the other thing that what's great about that scene is, like I said, it's the first lines that Furiosa says, or is that like towards the very end of that scene. Like you have this whole build up where you're watching her just be extremely resourceful and like a total badass and crawling underneath the war rig and then like taking out all these raiders and everything, and she's like one of the last ones standing, and she's on top of the war rig, and they've got this like, they call it the bounty hunter at the very end, like the thing that twirls with like the spiked balls or whatever.
Yeah.
And the war boy, like the war boy is like asking if he should turn it on, and to this point she still hasn't said any lines. She's been on the screen for like 30 minutes, and there's just this like tension, and I'm just like. And the tension is so good that you yourself want to scream yes. And then her first lines are her screaming back to him, "The bounty hunter, do the bounty hunter now." Which is like, I love, because George Miller did such a good job, and she did such a fantastic job of just bringing the tension. And you're just like, is she going to speak at all? And then she's just yelling with you basically to turn this damn machine on so that they could like finish the battle and win. Yeah, the use of, or the lack of speaking lines from Furiosa was like, I thought, incredibly well done. And Anya Taylor-Joy did like a fantastic She's just fantastic with 30 lines. I didn't feel like it didn't feel weird to me at all.
So
Personally.
so one of the things I want to address that, but to do it, I have to go bigger here first. I enjoy this movie, even though I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Fury Road. I think Fury Road like is ambitious in a very different way and covers a lot of ground. This movie is, as far as like its characters go, like it feels like the story it's trying to tell is a lot simpler, right? This like quest for revenge, and in doing so, it takes these two characters and it pits them against each other, and we're able to like examine them through that journey, right? And what I really enjoy about that is like toward the end of this movie, we have Dementis like arguing like, oh, the whole like hero villain thing, like we're not so different, you and me, Spider-Man. Like always that. But they really are diametrically opposed in a lot of ways. As you just pointed out, she's a really quiet character. The way she's written, she's very meticulous. She's always thinking about like down the road, whereas like Dementis is exactly the opposite, right? He's a very smart character, but he's very short-sighted, right?
Yeah.
He thinks about like what's directly in front of him and like how to problem solve like right then and there, and like he's the opposite of a quiet character, right? Like you always know what he's thinking about. He's always talking. I love that they are polar opposites, right? But I guess in their quest for revenge, maybe they aren't so different, right? And I guess that's the point he tries to make at the end, which that scene at the end where they are just talking to each other is probably my favorite scene in the entire movie.
Oh, yeah. That's so well done. They're both fantastic during that scene. Oh my gosh. I could watch that scene like 100 times in a row. That was fantastic.
Chris Hemsworth is a good bad guy.
Yeah.
A really, really great, awful villain.
Well, and I think this kind of villain, though, played to his strengths a lot, too, right? Because he's got like a lot of really good qualities from like a comedic perspective about him. And so this was a kind of villain that let him also be funny. And like, I don't know, there was a lot of just him being himself in a way. It felt like just a little loose. He just did a wonderful job, like from being a bad guy.
I enjoy that there is something familiar about the performance, right? Like there you can see Thor like in the performance, but it's not quite Thor, right?
Right.
Like there, like the vanity is there, the bravado is there for Thor, and then of course the humor from Thor is there. But there's also this like, there's this selfish disregard for the people around him, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, very appropriately named, right? There's this dementedness to him.
Yeah. So funny. Dementis.
Yeah. Dementis. Yeah. I love that it's Thor, but just like sort of like askew. It's like it's Thor, but like there's something just off about him, It was a good subtle difference that I thought he made. And I like I said, I thought he was just a really compelling bad guy, especially the scene where they're escaping. Is it the bullet factory? When she and Jack are trying to escape the bullet factory and
bullet farm, I think is what
bullet
it is.
Farm, yeah, the bullet farm. And it, the gate is blocked by like a bunch of cars, and like someone's like, "Get the digger," and he's like, "No time," and like just starts like bullheaded like ramming into it over and over again.
The only thing that bothered me about that is they tried to do it with the war rig earlier in the scene, and it didn't work. And then they like Jack takes off and just decides to go through the bullet farm, and Furiosa goes like through the gate to help him. And then at the end, when Dementis just takes another truck that's not like, to me was not any more equipped to be able to take down a gate.
So I had the same thought, but I think that truck, we are led to believe after he plows through the gate. I guess the gate is supposed to show us this actually. When he does that later, we see another feat of speed from this truck. as it like goes up the hill, right, the dune, and like no other bike can do it, and like it pulls off like a few like different feats of like crazy like strength and speed.
And you know, because of how big the tires were on that, he was able to actually like get over the gate once he tore it down.
Right.
So that was the other thing I was thinking. And in the moment when I was watching it, I was like,
no, I feel that.
But that's a small thing.
I had that actually happen to me a couple times in this movie. So overall, like I had a great time watching Furiosa. I thought it was a really fun ride. But I think maybe this is just a personal thing for me. Revenge stories, I feel like the story is always in the last like 5 minutes, and everything for the revenge story is the build up. I am thinking of another Anya Taylor-Joy film that was a revenge story. She was not the main attraction of it though. The Northman. Again, another revenge story where like the horrible thing happens in the beginning, and then the character like goes through like the shit that like will make him like into the perfect monster that they'll be at the end to like pay off the revenge, right? And I don't know, I just feel like as far as those stories go, like this didn't really deliver me anything different that I've seen. And as we pointed out before, it even does like the stereotypical of like, we're not so different, you and I, which like I am so tired of that conversation.
Yeah,
writers, get your people to say something different. I'm sorry. Like, no more. We're not so different. We're pretty different. We can be very different. I'm over it.
You know, I mean, I'll give you that. You're making a good point about how that always in a revenge story seems to be between the bad guy and the good guy or good girl or whatever, right? Like, there's always the we're not so different vibe. And it is overplayed. I think
nothing alike.
Yeah, I think it was delivered well here to where
it is.
You know, it didn't bother me.
Nothing against the actors.
Yeah, but that's a great point. I will also say it's tough in this kind of a world. It's tough to really say that anyone is good or bad, right? Because you know, granted, Furiosa comes from a place that, for all we know, seems like it's good, right? But it can't. But it's also secluded, and they're trying to keep everyone out, so they're not 100% good because they're also not trying to help. Not that they could with how
moral gray area.
Yeah, moral gray area.
That's a pretty good argument, Nick.
Granted, when you see,
pretty good argument.
When you see what's out there, I don't know. No one wants their help. They would just take over. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation on, you know, the gray area there. But no one's really the good guy or the good girl, right? Like Furiosa even has, you know, by the time we get to her getting revenge at the end, like she's done plenty of bad shit at that point, right? She, depending on who you are, like she's the bad person of the film, right? So, I mean, granted, to us she's not, right? She's the badass and she's the good side of the film, but in this kind of a world, it's hard to really guarantee who really is good or bad. Everyone's just out for themselves. But that is a good point about coming up with something new regarding the vengeance story. You
know, an example of a film like taking something that's been overdone and like rewriting it, but like you know exactly what it is that they're trying to say. So Captain America: Civil War. There's that scene between Tony Stark and Peter Parker, and Tony's like, so like, what's your MO? Like, why do you do what you do? Like, why do you get out of bed every day? What's your thing? And Peter's like, well, when you can do the things that I can do, and then you don't, and then the bad things happen, well, then that's on you. With great power comes great responsibility. Like, we all know what it was that like they wanted him to say, but they're like, oh, we've all heard it a million times. Right. Like, let's not do it here.
Right.
So like, yeah, like there are ways around it, guys. Like you can do it without actually doing the cliche, you know?
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have cared that much about the revenge story being like overdone had it not been for that line, you know?
Right.
That being said, like I think I think as far as revenge stories go, I enjoyed the world building that we got out of this revenge story.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, like seeing the Bullet Farm, seeing Gastown, and like the way that that their war was starting. I wish we got to see a little bit more of the war, but the way that it started and then the way it ends, awesome. So yeah, that aspect of it I really enjoyed. Some parts that I thought were a little like lackluster. So Praetorian Jack, cool name. By the way, the moment you see this guy, you're like, okay, well, like this is the love interest because this is the only handsome man in the entire world.
It's so true.
It's just a world of uggos, and then this one man. This one bastion of handsomeness.
Yeah, plus he's got the black paint on his forehead, which we all knew to be a Furiosa thing from Fury Road. And so you see that too, and you're like, okay, this is about to be some kind of storyline because clearly this is where she gets her war paint from. That is so funny. He's the only good-looking man in the whole world. Of course, it's the love interest.
Point though, so there were two things about that though. So like, A, he's handsome as hell, right? And then like B, his name is Praetorian Jack, which like to this point, other than like Immortan Joe, is like the coolest name we've gotten so far. Like, are you kidding me? Praetorian Jack? Like you're competing with Rictus Erectus and Scrotus. Like, are you? Like, no one stands a chance against this guy. Like, he's perfect in this world. And he's a good shooter and driver. What's he bad at? I guess living at the end. But, like, other than that,
staying
like...
alive. Getting the girl.
Staying alive. Not very good at staying alive.
That was heartbreaking. It's like you knew it wasn't going to happen because obviously we know how it ends. But what if, man? They were so close. They were so close.
Was there any part of you that I know that it can't happen because of like the timeline? Was there any unreasonable part of you that was like, and this is when Max shows up to save the day?
Well, I mean, Max did show up to save the day.
He does, right? He does.
So he does.
I didn't think we were going to see him in the credits. He shows up.
Yeah. But he's there at the one shot where I think she's walking.
Yeah.
Right, and then they zoom out and they show him with his car.
Yeah, that was pretty
at the
cool.
top of the dune. But it was
just watching.
It wasn't Tom Hardy. It was the guy who was a stunt double for Mad Max Fury Road. Jack something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's actually the stunt double because I think he was on. I think he was doing some stunts for this movie, so for Furiosa, for someone else or whatever. So he was already there, and so they used him in that shot.
That's pretty neat.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
So we got Mad Max, you know. And then we had Charlize Theron at the very end when they showed us. I think there were they were old. There was the very beginning of the old clips.
Yes.
It was just like the highlights.
There were actually Fury Road clips.
Yeah, Fury Road clips, I think.
Yeah.
But
that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But
go ahead. Yeah.
So sorry, my actual point about Praetorian Jack.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I got off. He's so handsome. Got off tangent. So after the war rig scene, which we agree, amazing scene, probably one of the best in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I need a new crew. I'm starting again. Stick with me. I'll teach you everything you need to know to get back to the place you need to get to. Right. And then like we get a fast forward through time, and like she's got everything she needs at this point, and like we're getting up to like the war. I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed that we weren't gonna get more of that. You know, like I honestly could have done a little bit less of the war rig scene and gone into like not like a training montage, but just like them going on missions together, like at least one mission together where like she doesn't know all the shit yet, right? And like we just see him teach her one thing, right?
Right.
I don't think we actually ever see him teach her anything, do we?
No, I don't think so. But I think this goes back to George Miller's point about why the Warwick scene is so long. To show us how resourceful she is already. So I think it's kind of one of those things where he didn't want to like then show her learning something because we're already supposed to imply that like she's just gonna absorb whatever information.
I mean that's probably true.
But like I get what you're saying. It makes I would have enjoyed that too. Maybe a little bit more about
also
them.
to like help like flesh out their relationship, right? Because like we go from that to like, oh, they fucking like immediately, which like who could blame her? You know, like it's the only handsome man in the world.
Yeah, it truly is though. That's so funny.
Which, by the way, meant to bring this up earlier. Another like I don't know if it's an issue. It's something about the movie that I thought was going to come back and it never actually does. So when Immortan Joe makes the deal with Dementis, and he ends up taking Furiosa to like be his like eventual bride, which is gross. She escapes, right? But it's after she thwarts his son, who like presumably is going to do something awful to her. Right? And then like she just like disappears. Eventually she kind of wriggles her way back in to like the situation. I'm fine with like Immortan Joe like not recognizing her. I think that makes sense. Him not recognizing her, but like, is there really like not one scene where he's like, "Hey, where's that bargaining chip that like this whole deal was centered around? Is she still here? What do you mean she's gone?" Like how is there not one scene about that?
Yeah, that is a great point. That she ran away and. Especially because his son knows that she ran away and it was his fault. So there is no uproar. You would think there'd be an uproar about why is she gone after that whole thing. But also it might just be because he has so many wives or potential wives that it doesn't matter. Right. But
no, I agree with that. That like it doesn't matter probably like in the end.
Yeah. It shouldn't have been hard to put in a 30-second what do you mean she's gone?
Yeah, right.
Fast forward to her cutting her hair or she already did that, but fast forward to her like earning her way up the ranks as a war boy, basically. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, one quick thing, and then there's a bigger thing I definitely want to talk to you about because I'm sure you also.
Wait, before you get to your big thing, let's take a quick word from our sponsors. And we're back. Nick, you said you had a big thing.
I have a small thing and then a big thing.
Small thing and then a big thing.
The small thing is that I liked that we got to see the music, the guitar, the flaming music guitar stereo guy briefly.
I was also very happy about that.
I was waiting for him the whole time. I was like, please, is he here yet? Is he a part of the world yet? Please. And we got him. I was like, yeah. That's like my favorite part of Fury Road. That guy. I just like put that guy's scenes on a projector in a room. I'll just sit there for hours. It's hilarious. It's the funniest. It's so great. It's so ridiculous.
The man's a mobile concert.
It's so ridiculous. But that was cool to see. We got that. And then the other thing is I want to talk about History Man.
Oh, yeah, you mean homeless Gandalf. Yes.
Homeless Gandalf.
That's what he was. He was that yeah. I said what I said.
Homeless Gandalf.
That's all I kept thinking every time he was.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Homeless.
Sorry,
Gandalf.
your point about.
It doesn't matter now. My point doesn't matter. You've ruined everything about History Man. I thought his name was cool and everything. We just renamed him Homeless Gandalf.
No, he wasn't cool.
Well, but the thing about History Man is he's actually very integral in the whole Mad Max world. So he's like, the narrator of the film, you know how we had a couple points where there was a narration? That was History Man.
Yes.
Narrator.
No, that I did recognize, yeah.
And I guess George Miller says that like History Man and the narrating is part of, because the Mad Max story or saga takes place over decades, you need like those stories are passed through generations from the history man of the worlds at the time or whatever. So that's like, I guess, the reason for having even the character at all, and then also having him like narrate, is how like this world essentially passes along stories is with the history men of the generations, basically, because there's no social media or electronics basically in this apocalyptic world. So I thought that was
oral.
Cool. I thought that was cool, but not as cool as I thought after hearing the homeless Gandalf.
Dude, I couldn't unsee it, man. Like it was the cloak that he was wearing. I was like, so yeah, dude, he's just Walmart Gandalf.
I will say he did have this one line towards the end too when Furiosa brings this like rinky-dink car to the war, and then they take her tire, and then she steals the car that they put the tire on, and that's when she goes and finds Dementis by herself at the end of the film. But as she drives away, History Man just like straight up like zoomed in camera right on him, and then he's just like, it's the fifth rider of the apocalypse. And that was so funny. I don't think it was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree here, because it was so overly dramatic.
Yeah.
Because if the camera wasn't on him, and like it was just his disembodied voice and like her writing off in the distance, and him, and like you hear like the fifth rider of the apocalypse, right? Like that would be really cool. But it's the fact that you see him say it next to all of these like garbage looking people, and like he's like the most eloquent sounding one. He's so out of place. Yeah. And like he has no reason A to know who's even driving the car, and like B to say this, to be like in awe of it. Like he should be like, oh shit, like
right.
She took the car. Like if like they knew it was a she in the first place, they know who took it, which I'm pretty sure they don't. Yeah, no, that scene was funny.
Yeah, that was funny for sure. It's like he was right. It's it
was like he was holding on to it.
Yeah, like he was writing it like a week later after telling the story on paper or something, like he's like, what should I say in this moment? Oh, it's the fifth rider of the apocalypse.
And then I was like, oh, she's totally the fifth rider of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
That sounds
I'm so
really
glad.
Cool.
I'm so glad you noticed that too, because that was like, I had to write that down. I was like, this is hilarious.
It was the most immersion breaking scene of the movie for me. Yeah. When he said that, I was like, that's so stupid. I love that just happened.
One other thing that I thought was kind of not dumb, but it bothered me throughout the film. What's with the constellations on her arm that she drew herself, and then
this bothered
I guess
me too.
got him tattooed.
Yeah,
they didn't set anything up constellation wise, really, right? I mean,
ever.
At the very beginning, her mother says something about like follow the stars, or something, but it wasn't enough to warrant her like constantly looking at her tattoo to find her way back home, because she honestly didn't even know where anyway. Right. I don't even think she knew what direction to go regardless.
Right.
Or she had a vague idea, but like...
And if you know what... If you know it well enough to draw it on your arm, then like you don't need an illustrative reminder, right? Unless like... it's more poignant and emotional, and she just wants to remember home. Yeah. Right? Like, if it's that, okay, right. Cool. But there's no indication that it's that,
Right. I mean, it's probably partly that, but it just felt like something we didn't really need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if anything, like, I can only think of one thing for this. Like, if I'm Miller, which I'm clearly not, but if I was... If I was, you're going into this movie. This is actually... Okay, so I'll give him this. This is creative. So, the problem with prequels is it is hard to build stakes in a prequel because you already know what's going to happen, right? Like, even without having watched the film, you know two things. You know Immortan Joe is going to be fine. Or I guess you know a few things. You know his sons are going to be fine. You know Furiosa is going to be fine. You know Dementis is probably not going to be fine, right? And his gang, right? So like you know all those things, and like that's what the conflict is like generating around. So like how you get around that usually is, you know, you built in emotional stakes in a way that maybe the viewer cannot see coming, right? Like building up like an emotional context to something that the viewer couldn't have possibly have known beforehand. And the star thing is one way to do that. I don't think that this hits, but I think that this is what he might have been going for. So we know that Furiosa is going to lose her arm at some point in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And then in the beginning, she draws like the stars on her arm. And if we're right, if it's supposed to be more of an emotional thing, a reminder of home, then her losing her arm, I mean, like, I feel like you don't have to build too much of an emotional context to lose your arm. You lost your arm. That's pretty emotionally devastating in and of itself. Right. But if it's supposed to be a reminder of home, I could see that being a very clever bit of writing. Again, I don't think if it's supposed to be that, I don't think it hits really at all.
Yeah. I honestly
in principle,
forgot,
it's a good idea.
I didn't even realize at the end, after she loses her arm, that the drawings were on the arm that she lost.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like maybe even pointless for me to be complaining about because she doesn't even have the arm anymore anyway.
Well, no, because like to your point, you said like, what was the point of that? You know?
Yeah.
Because like it doesn't really add up to anything except the arm being lost.
Yeah, I love that George made sure not to give us the arm ripping off scene until like much later because we didn't know how, but you knew it was going to happen at some point. It's like, okay, we're going to figure out like this is how did she lose her arm? We're going to find out in this movie. And I felt like there were a lot of moments it could have happened. And I'm like, okay, this is it. It happened like 4 times. I'm like, oh, this is the moment for sure. Nope. This is it. Nope.
Yeah, like
this
with
is
the
it.
war rig scene. Yeah, there's one moment. Yeah.
And then she gets her arm stuck, and you're like, oh, okay. Like her arm, they're gonna have to like, she'll lose that part of her arm because the wound is too bad.
Right.
But then that wasn't completely it because then they tied her up by the arm. And the second her arm goes up on the tie, you're like, oh, God. Because you see the bone sticking out. You're just like, oh, okay. So this is going to snap eventually. You know? And then that was a really cool scene. Obviously, this is when Jack dies, which, you know, that's super sad when the best looking character in the film, aside from Furiosa, although Furiosa is not necessarily hot Anya Taylor-Joy is, but when she's playing Furiosa, maybe not the whole time.
Yes.
Anyway,
dig yourself out of this grave. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we wish Jack was still with us. But that scene was really cool because she, again, shows her resourcefulness. And after they have, you know, like gotten this like sand tornado like spun up by just going in circles and dragging Jack around and just like making all this commotion, she's under the cover of all this desert and they're not paying attention to her at that moment, and she probably detaches the rest of her arm herself, of course, and takes off and is able to get away, which is just like another resourceful moment, really cool and brutal. I mean, Jesus.
I do love that she is ultimately responsible for cutting off her own arm, right? Like, obviously, like stuff happens to her and that forces her to do it, but like, it's not like someone took her arm. Like, she decided, I'm getting out of here. You know?
Yep.
Very on brand.
Yeah.
Great for the character.
The resourcefulness to like build herself another arm, which is gasoline powered.
Right. This is so cool.
Like, what? This is amazing. Like, very, very cool. I love that. Yeah. And then I think I have like 1 or 2 more things, including something you might not know about the film. But I'm wondering if you have anything else you wanted to talk about before I bring that up.
I do, actually. And it's about that scene. So Simon Dugan is the cinematographer for this movie. And he's done a bunch of stuff before, to my favorites being iRobot and The Great Gatsby. That one in particular is beautifully shot. I think that's probably at least that's my favorite thing that he's shot.
Can I just pause real quick?
Sure. What's up?
Those iRobot, The Great Gatsby, and Furiosa.
Yeah.
That's a trifecta for a cinematographer.
Right. It's pretty great.
What a random ass 3 movies to name. Obviously, he's done many other things.
Yes.
There's got to be like 3 other movies he's done, but to mention instead of iRobot. Like, what?
Wait, hold on. Are we anti-iRobot here?
I'm not anti-iRobot. I haven't seen it in like 15 years, and it just seems like such a random movie to mention at the moment. I have to go look at this guy's discography now because I feel like there's like another movie you might have mentioned instead of iRobot. Like, what else?
I feel like those are the
else?
two. When I went to take a look, I'm pretty sure those were the 2 biggest that he's responsible for.
Okay, well then, all right, never mind. So he didn't do. He wasn't. I mean,
there are other
notable.
Road. Don't get me wrong. There are other notable films. I'm pretty sure those are the 2. They were at least my 2 favorites.
Okay,
Great Gatsby in particular.
It just felt so random. The iRobot was so random to me.
We have to talk about iRobot more later. I get the randomness now that you like mention it, but like, yo, iRobot rules.
I might watch it tomorrow night actually because now we're talking about
Hell
it. So maybe we'll talk about it afterwards.
Dude, I'm gonna watch it tomorrow night too.
We're gonna review iRobot next week too.
Dude, let's do it. I love iRobot. It's such a fun movie.
It's so ridiculous. All right, well, I just got myself into something I probably don't actually want to do, but here we are. All right, but he wasn't the cinematographer for Fury Road, then I assume. I mean, Fury Road was like in 2015,
no, he
so
was
I
not.
guess it makes sense.
He was not the cinematographer. But anyway,
sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So Simon Dugan, he shoots this movie. It's a beautiful movie. There are so many different. After watching this in Dune, I'm wondering like, is it just a cheat code to like shoot in the desert? Can you just like create beautiful images like that easily? I know it's not. I know they have talent, but like, damn, do they make it look effortless?
Yeah, it's really good.
The scene you just mentioned though has my favorite shot of the entire movie, and I just love how like creative it is. I think like. Usually I'm not a big fan of faded transitions, like when one scene like fades into another. Like they're fine and like they're effective, but like they never usually stick with me. And they're not supposed to, right? They're supposed to be seamless, right? Like you just go to one scene, transition to the next, right? Like we keep it moving. It's not supposed to take you out of the film. It's literally supposed to like skate by you, right? There's a shot here though where they got really creative with that faded transition where Dementis says like, he says whatever he says and like the bikers like start going in circles, right? But like the camera's lingering on his face like while he's doing that, and it transitions to a wide shot of the bikers going in circles around the encampment that they've created. But there's still like 50% opacity of Dementis's face. So like it looks like you're getting this like inside look of what it's like to be inside Dementis's head with all these bikes just circling around and all like the sand and the twister like going around. Like it looks insane. It looks like he's insane. And just
Checks
like
out.
yeah, just like visually, like what a great way to communicate like where the hell this character is right now.
That's awesome.
Just an angry, crazy person.
Yeah, and he was having a moment too there while they were all going wild. That was a moment that he was having internally.
Yeah, I think that was like one of his most emotionally unstable moments.
Yeah.
I was legitimately scared of him in that moment.
Yeah, I was like, oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, chef's kiss to that.
Here's something that you might not know about Furiosa. Or rather, something you might not have noticed upon first watch of the film. And it has to do with 2 smaller characters in the movie.
Okay.
That just very in passing. Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataki. I'm not sure how you say her last name. But Elsa actually plays 2 characters in this film. She plays one of the women from the Green Place at the very beginning, which is very obvious. You see her at the very beginning of the film, and she's I think she's like some sort of general at the Green Place, and she's the one who goes after the raiders with Furiosa's mother.
I had a feeling that's what you were gonna say. Okay.
And then Furiosa's mother continues the journey on her own, and so that's her first appearance. And then in the next chapter, when we meet Dementis, or actually, I think we meet Dementis in chapter 1 as well. But in the next chapter, in chapter 2, This scene was the most gruesome to me in probably the whole film. In chapter 2, when Dementus is like, just like him and his crew just conquered some other crew or whatever, and there's only a certain amount of spots on Dementus's biker gang, and you have to fight to win or whatever, and so you have to fight each other to get a spot on a bike, and then then there's like 5 or 6 bikes that are tied to this person who's in the center, and they're all going to hit the gas pedal and just rip this guy's limbs off. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But Elsa, the other character she plays, and she plays this character for the rest of the film. I think that character's name was actually Mr. Norton, if I ever looked it up correctly. So funny. And you see this really quickly. She is a part of the gang that the people have to fight to get a spot on one of the bikes to then rip this guy's limbs off.
Yeah, she's the last one, right?
She's like the last one that gets on, but she gets her face like just destroyed. So she's got this disgusting deformity for the whole film on her face. So you can't really tell it's her. But that's her other character. Right. So that's the other character she plays, which is why she's able to play 2 characters, because she plays like a deformed biker gang member for Dementus.
I love that.
And she gets another close-up one time at the very end. Because like they did a good job of like not showing her like a close-up or anything.
I did see her at the end, though, because I remembered her messed up mouth.
Yeah, at the very end, they do a close-up of her. And I imagine at that point it was spaced out enough to where people weren't bothered. But at the beginning of the film, I noticed her, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's his wife playing a second part. And then the whole film, I was like trying to like get a good shot of her, and they didn't do it again until the very end, probably to hope the audience wouldn't realize it or something. But I did. You didn't fool me, George. Anyway, I thought that was like a fun fact, and that was pretty cool.
No, that's sick. I like that. That's a good Easter egg, Nick. Good hunting.
Yeah.
So, shall we grade?
So, let's do some grades, man.
Let's do some grades.
This made me want to see. I wanted to rewatch Fury Road again, even though I just watched it last week. I was like, man, I really want to watch Fury Road now, because like you just have this whole extra backstory on why Furiosa is the way that she is. So I don't know. It's cool.
You know, this movie actually made me wonder, like, so I guess quick side note before we grade this movie, but like, so Fury Road is like pretty famous for being stuck in like development hell for a long time, right? Like I think George has like the idea for Fury Road like back in like 1987.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and like he can't get it off the ground. I think there's problems when like 9/11 shows up, and then I think the whole project gets side railed for a while. But anyway, the reason why I bring that up, this movie made me wonder like how much of Furiosa's like backstory was originally supposed to be part of Fury Road, you know?
So originally, he wanted to film. They were supposed to film them both, I think, at the same time. And they were supposed to come out back to back. And then when they started pre-production for both of them, they decided to just do Fury Road the first time. So it wasn't until pre-production, because I think going into pre-production, they're like, we're going to do 2 movies back to back.
They had a plan.
We have a plan. And then they started pre-production. They're like, holy shit, there's no fucking way. Because if you think about both movies, you're like, yeah, no shit, you can't do both back to back. Like it took them 78 days for War Rig scene. Like they're not filming both these movies.
It makes sense when you think about it. Like when you think about this film, like there's just so many parts of it that feel like that maybe they should have been in Fury Road. Like the very beginning with like the green place, you know? Or should is a strong word. That they could have been in Fury Road. Like the beginning with the green place.
Just for context.
Like, right. Yeah, exactly. Like that feels like that absolutely could have been in the original movie, in the last movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
so that makes
totally
sense after. Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
Nice.
And now
nice.
it is complete. Now you can
it's complete.
Watch Furiosa and go right into this and another fun fact too, real quick. Charlize Theron was not, obviously, she did not reprise her role as Furiosa in this film because George Miller didn't want to use AI to like de-age her, basically. And he decided he'd rather recast, which Charlize was apparently a little bit bummed about, but understood. At least that's the quote I saw. Who knows? She might still be pissed. But
that does make me wonder, though, like
that.
How many more movies can Anya Taylor-Joy play a teen in? Like, so she was a teen in New Mutants as well. But like, she's like, I'm pretty sure she's on the other side of 25.
Yeah, I mean, she looks young. She
does look young.
Know, so.
She does. So maybe she's got a couple more teen movies in her before it's all over.
I like that though, the recasting, especially because it's been so long since Fury Road, and I think it would be. I definitely want to rewatch Fury Road now that I've seen this, and just to like see how it goes. But
right, and nothing to like knock the original performance, but I don't think like at least at 2015, I don't think Furiosa was like iconic enough of a character to not have another actress come in and play her, like right. It's not like Indiana Jones 1 came out and then Indiana Jones 2 and like you didn't have Harrison Ford, right?
Right. Yeah, like Furiosa is Charlize Theron, but like now she's also Anya Taylor-Joy.
Right.
They both crushed it.
Oh yeah.
And I think that Anya Taylor-Joy did a really good job of kind of picking up some mannerisms that Charlize would have used in Fury Road. So like, I actually think watching them back to back would be like seamless. It would, because they both did such a good job, and I think they blended it perfectly. So yeah. Anyway, kudos to them. Fantastic performance. Let's score it.
All right, let's do it. I'm giving it a 3. Fight me.
God.
Fight me.
Are you serious? A 3?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.
All right. Even like, you were just like, it's a 3. Good night.
See ya. I'm giving it a 3. Here's the thing. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. I really had a fun time with it. I stand by what I said earlier. I think prequels really do have a hard time creating
Joe
something
sucks.
that's like not an artificial conflict, right? Like you kind of know where everything's going. Revenge stories are overly simple to the point of like, again, you know where it's going. So it's got both of those things working against it. There was one other thing that bothered me about it. I can't recall what it was, but anyway, overall, it's not enough for me to say that this movie's bad. By no means is it bad. It's a good movie. Anything
Should
I
people
have
go
against
see it in theaters?
Absolutely.
Okay,
For the war rig scene alone,
great.
Go see it in theaters. Nick?
Definitely got to see it in theaters, 100%. Worth going to twice in theaters, in my opinion. I loved this movie. George Miller crushed it. As you mentioned, Simon with cinematography, fantastic. Anya Taylor-Joy, amazing. Chris Hemsworth, amazing. They took 78 days to film a damn 15-minute action scene. Like, you have to go see this in theaters. It's fantastic. I'm giving it a 4.2. It's great. It's a really solid score, way higher than Joe. Although I see where Joe came from, I do understand his points, but I think that the origin story of Furiosa is like, it's super well done. So 4.2. That's a review.
That's our review.
And, that's it.
Next time we're doing a TV show next time, right? Like what's on the next?
The Acolyte.
Oh
next.
Man, Nick, we're doing a Star Wars thing next. Oh man.
And
do you think the Acolyte will have a desert in it? I think it might.
It's gotta have a desert.
It's gotta, right? It's gotta.
For sure. We're seeing
2024, the year of the desert. Let's go.
Yeah, apparently some people have seen the first couple episodes already, just like a sneak peek, and it's like apparently really awesome. So I'm stoked for this. I'm super stoked. So we're talking about Acolyte next for sure.
Excellent.
That's in about 10 days. So
okay. Something to get excited about.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Star Wars, baby, finally.
Star Wars, baby, we're back. We're back, baby. Let's go.
Whoop, whoop.
But until then, may the review be with you.
Peace.